If you have back pain, there are 5 steps that you must know for you to achieve total back pain relief for a lifetime. So what that means is you can eliminate your back pain and have it never come back. There are 5 steps. Very often the reason your back pain comes back is because you haven't addressed all 5 steps. So this is possibly the most important video for you about back pain, because this is the fundamentals to eliminating back pain. This takes all the guesswork, all the confusion out of your back pain, because the reason your back pain comes back is because you have the confusion. So the goal is to eliminate that by having you truly understand the fundamentals. There's 5. And it's broken down into different phases. First phase is decrease the pain. There's certain steps to do that. Create stability, restore motion, create functional strength, and create endurance and long-term load tolerance, which is the 5th phase, which is the one that most often people forget. So we're going to talk about this so you understand it in depth. It shouldn't take too long, but it's very important. They must be done in that order. So there is an order, there is a sequence of events that has to take place. If you do it out of sequence, the pain comes back, or you just make your back pain worse. Very often you'll get treatment and they'll have you do very specific things or very specific exercises. Well, if you're doing them in the wrong order, what happens is the pain comes back. So you have to do them in the right order, otherwise you're going to aggravate it. I get this all the time. What's the best exercise? Well, it depends. Depends where you're at in these phases. Some people have to start here. Some people they start a little further down the road here. So it really depends what the best stretch is or what the best exercise is. Or what I get sometimes is patients say, oh, I tried this therapy and I got better, but then the pain came back. Well, you didn't address all those 5 steps. So this video is about those 5 steps. So again, there's 5 and you have to go in the right order, but this is really about what causes your pain so you know what you have to do to fix it. There is a way out. This is the way out. Matter of fact, this is possibly the best way and potentially the only way out. There's acupuncture, there's lasers and things like that. Okay, those address maybe the inflammatory process, this part here, but they don't address the rest. You need to address all 5. So the question is, what is causing your pain? Well, 24 vertebrae between the head and the hips. In between each vertebrae, there's a disc. The disc allows for motion of the vertebrae, but also the disc acts like a shock absorber. The disc has an outer, thicker portion called the annulus and a jelly-like substance on the inner portion, so it's like a jelly donut. And this jelly is what acts as the shock absorber. The jelly gives stability to the disc the same way air gives stability to your tires. So what can happen is that jelly can start to move. As the jelly starts to move, what it'll do is it'll push out in one direction. When it pushes out in that one direction as a result of posture, wear and tear, sitting in certain positions, performing certain activities, bending a lot, what happens is it starts to move out. Now, we live in a culture where we sit a lot, so this sitting is going to start to force that nucleus out. And what that happens over time is the nucleus starts to tear. And as that nucleus starts to tear, the nucleus starts to push out. So at the beginning phase, what happens is you develop what's called a bulging disc. And then what happens is if it tears further, you can develop what's called a herniated disc. It'll start to push out further. Now, doesn't really matter what you call it. It's all about this change in the disc. When the disc starts to change and tear, that's when you get the pain. And that pain will get aggravated with very specific activities because it is torn. So it progresses. It can be a bulge, it can be a herniation, it can tear all the way through. They can call it a sequestration, they can call it a protrusion, but it's all about this tear. It doesn't have to tear all the way through, it can be a little tear. And it starts to cause you pain because it gets inflamed. There's an inflammatory process that takes place in the annulus. Inflammation causes pain. If I were to hit your thumb with a hammer, it would get swollen. As a matter of fact, the more I hit it, the more swollen and the more sensitive it would get. Okay? Same thing with this tear. The more you aggravate it, it's like hitting your thumb with a hammer. After a while, simple things are going to hurt it. It's called sensitization. It's called central sensitization. So what happens is the tissues become very, very, very sensitive. And then the nerves in and around the disc and in and around the spinal cord start to get aggravated, and then the spinal cord gets aggravated. It develops an inflammatory process in the tissues where the tear is and in the nerves, and it becomes ultra sensitive. So the key is to decrease the sensitivity. And what we have found by doing MRI studies is that these discs can move with motion. So the first phase of decreasing the pain is to avoid the abnormal activities that aggravate the disc. So you bring down the inflammation by stop hitting your thumb with the hammer, stop moving on that disc. Okay? So the fundamentals are movements, position, stability, mobility, and strength, the things that we've talked about. But the first phase is the beginning phase, starts down here. We're on a progression. So our ultimate goal is to decrease the inflammation and start to add stability, mobility, strength, and functional load tolerance. That's the end goal. So if you start here, our goal is to get you to here. And that's the ultimate goal, is to create strength, durability, resilience, and toughness so you can maintain and manage everyday activities without the pain. When your pain comes back, what happens is you didn't get all the way to the end. You sort of bailed out right here. Or worse yet, you did a therapy that just helped bring down the inflammation and made you feel better, but you didn't do anything to create the durability, the resilience, and the toughness. Okay, it's a progression. The only way to get there is through doing the activities. The activities will set you free. The motion is the medicine. You need the motion in the joints, you need the motion in the muscles. So it's a progression as we go down the path. First phase, like I said, is decrease the inflammation. Well, faulty movement patterns and bad posture and sitting too long, positions you sit, you stand, you lay down in, will create the pain, will aggravate that disc. It'll aggravate the tear in the disc. So what's fundamental step number one? Healthy movement patterns. There are unhealthy movement patterns and there are healthy movement patterns. The healthy movement patterns will decrease the inflammatory process, decrease the inflammation in the annulus. Okay, that tear, again, the healthy movement patterns stop the hammer hitting the thumb. Okay, the hammer is hitting the thumb. Every time it hits it, the disc is doing this, right? There's no hammer, but the motion is going to aggravate the disc. Motion in the spine. You need the motion in the hips. So you need healthy movement patterns. That's step number one. These are fundamentals. These are scientific proofs. Okay, it's been proven scientifically. Healthy movement habits. Number one, decrease the inflammatory process, helps decrease the aggravation to the disc. We're starting here. We're going to move our way up. Again, durability, resilience, and toughness is our end goal. So we start right here. A lot of people end right here. This is where they stop. Oh, I feel a little better. If you don't restore normal function and strength, the pain always comes back. This is the cycle you're on. This is the pain that comes and goes. This is the, I don't know what I did, but my pain came back. Okay, well, you're fragile. You're a fragilista. We have you here. We have to get you there. That's the 5 steps. Okay, we have 22 videos that define proper movement, healthy movement patterns. Okay, we call that our daily routine. This is where people start. This is where you have to start. This is step 1. You have to understand there are good movement patterns and there are unhealthy movement patterns. And sitting is maybe not very good for your spine. So if you sit a lot, you have to get up and move around. We have 22 videos to help you understand the movement patterns. Step 2, stabilize your core and your spine. Very important. Why? Healthy movement patterns require endurance. If you're moving, and the goal is not to move your spine, but to move your hips, and we have you in a position where these muscles have to hold on and prevent that micro movement of the disc. Okay? The longer that muscle has to hold, that's called endurance. Endurance is the ability of the muscle to hold for extended periods of time. If you have 30 seconds of endurance and you're doing an activity that requires 40 seconds, guess what? After 40 seconds, the spine is going to start to do this. It's going to start to fatigue, the muscles will fatigue, and you'll move into the positions that aggravate the disc. Very, very common. If you don't have the proper endurance, you're going to aggravate the disc. Again, it comes back to the micro tear in the annulus. Phase 2, started here. As you got a little bit better, now we're creating the endurance. Step 2, it's a fundamental. You have to have endurance of your spine. There's no easy way. I mean, it's not hard to get it, but if you don't know you need it, you never get it. The pain always comes back. Okay, there are very good therapies for decreasing pain, but you need to restore all 5 steps. That's the key. The key is to restore the 5 steps. Okay, so step 2 is core. This is technically supposed to be a picture of all the muscles of your core, but it's all the muscles that support your spine. And you need to have endurance, because when you don't, then you're going to aggravate the disc. That's step number 2. Okay, step number 3 is restore the motion to the hip. You have to do them in this order. This is when people say, oh, I want to stretch my hamstrings. If you stretch your hamstrings, which is really step number 3, before you do step number 1 and step number 2, you're going to continue to aggravate it, and you say, oh, it didn't work, it hurt. Okay, because you did it too soon. So this is step 3, restore the motion to your hips and your shoulders. They work together. Hips are more important, but shoulders are important too. If you don't do it in the proper order, you will start to have problems. Tight hips cause the spine to move, so you have to restore the hips. Take the pressure off the disc. Again, fundamental number 1, healthy movement patterns. Hips are tight, you're not going to have a healthy movement pattern. Very, very, very common. But you have to do it in the right order. Work with the hips. That's our goal. As we start to progress up, okay, phase 3 is here. This is your level. Okay, our goal is to get you all the way up here, but after phase 3, you're here. Again, we want to avoid the aggravation to the disc. What is that? It's healthy movement patterns. Okay, they're unhealthy if you don't have endurance and the hips are tight. That's why you have to go through each step. These are 5 steps, 5 fundamentals. There's only 5, but you have to get through it. Number 4 is you have to create strength in the primary movers. Okay? Healthy movement patterns are not this. This is bad, because this movement pattern is going to aggravate the disc. Okay, you're bending on the disc. You're bending on the disc. You're going to aggravate the disc. So a healthy movement pattern now relies on these muscles right here to move the hips. Okay, endurance here strong, hips are strong. You can hold this position without fatigue because these muscles are strong and you have endurance here. These are your glutes. Most important muscle, and they have to be strong bilaterally, meaning both sides. Very often what happens is people have strong one side and weak the other side. And when you have one side weak and one side strong, you always have problems. So you have to increase the strength in the primary movers. Ultimate goal, healthy movement patterns. Fundamental number 1, always healthy movement patterns. Okay? So we work on the shoulders and we work on the hips to make sure that we're doing the right things. That's phase 4. We're getting you up the ladder here. Again, the ultimate goal is to create the durability, depending on where you're at. If you don't know that there is a pathway and you do what's called random, you don't get better and you don't know why you don't get better. Or the doctor says, I don't know why you don't get better. Or the problem's in your head. There's something wrong with you. I can't figure out what's wrong with you. You have to do the steps. When you do the steps, you get better. It's this. I know because I had it. I lived with it for 10 years. It was depressing. I was very depressed. Fifth phase. This is the most often overlooked. Okay, at phase 4, we're creating some durability, but phase 5 is making sure that you have the strength necessary to perform the task. Everyday life requires a fair amount of functional movement and strength. The more functional strength you have, the better the quality of your life, because you can do more. The more you do, the better you feel. The motion is the medicine. There are 36 diseases that perpetuate as a result of lack of motion. We live in a culture where we sit too much, and we now suffer with more chronic diseases than ever. Okay? So the goal is to create your functional strength that meets your needs. If your needs are to sit on the couch, then you don't need as much functional strength, but you're going to forever have problems. Okay? The goal should be to do more. Dance, run, bike, climb, hike. All the things that are going to make you healthy. And that's phase 5. All the way up here. This is what creates the durability. It's 5 steps. If you go out of order, you're going to have problems because you're going to aggravate the disc. But the 5th step is to add some load. Simple load. You don't have to be doing heavy weights, but some sort of load weights will help. Dumbbells, kettlebells, barbells. It's not hard. Simple things. They don't have to be heavy, but you want to add load because load creates strength and durability. It doesn't cause a breakdown. If you're doing 1,000 pounds, you're going to have a breakdown. But if you're not doing 1,000 pounds, you're not going to have a breakdown. So, fundamental number 5, prepare for the activities and the loads to live your life. If you're a golfer, you need very specific strength for golf. You don't need that same strength if you're a walker or a climber, because golf is a lot of rotation. So your activity is going to require a certain amount of strength. That's phase 5. Okay? When your strength is less than what is required for the activity, the result is abnormal motion, and we know what that does. Aggravates the disc. So it's not the load, it's the fact that you weren't prepared for the load. You have to prepare for the load. What strength do you need, and how much do you have? Example, you're unloading the car and potentially heavy boxes. So you're going to be doing some bending. You want to make sure you have the endurance and the strength to perform that activity. And let's pretend like you're here. You've worked your way up the sequence to here. But then the load is here. The strength you need is here, but you don't have enough. The goal would be to get you to here, but now you're doing this. You're unpacking the car, and what happens is you can damage the disc. So it's not the load that breaks you down, meaning it's not this. It's the fact that you weren't prepared for it. You're here, you need to be here. These are the fundamentals. This is why your back pain's not coming back. If you're not prepared, you're going to have back pain. Chronic back pain is on the rise. People are getting worse every single day. There's a way out. It's not even that hard. Quite frankly, if you stick with it, it's pretty easy. Like anything in life. If you keep doing it, everything gets easier. If you do it once and expect it to solve all your problems, you're fooling yourself. You wouldn't go to a trainer and say, I want to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger in one visit. It doesn't happen, right? For him, it took a lifetime. Same thing. Spend the time doing the tasks. There's only 5. Work your way. The goal is the durability. You can be durable. I thought I was fragile. Oh, I'm special. I roll over in bed and my back breaks. You're not special. You're not ready. Okay, you didn't do the right stuff. Or you prepared, and every time you prepared, it hurt because you were preparing at the wrong time. It's a sequence. Okay? We have to get you working your way up here. Okay? This is the ultimate goal. This is where the true preparation takes place. A lot of people say, oh, my therapy's good. I can make your pain better. Yeah. You can make the pain better, but the only way to get here is with the muscles. It's not with acupuncture. It's not with lasers. It's not with decompression. It's not with stem cells. Okay? $8,000 to $10,000 for stem cells. You still got to do the exercises. So if your goal is pain relief, eliminate the abnormal motion. You're aggravating the disc. You don't need $8,000 stem cells, and you don't need $100,000 surgery. You need the 5 steps. We have a program for the patients that cannot come into our clinics. We call it 10X. It's powerful. It's effective. It's easy. It's the steps along the pathway. It's a step-by-step process. We start you here, and by God, we get you here. That's the plan. Every week, you do the plan. It's the most comprehensive scientific program. Every week, we give you 10 videos. We talk about the movement patterns, the postures, the exercise progressions, mobility. Okay, we start slow, and then we get you through the program to the end where you're durable. That's the plan. Make it feel better, function better, take the pressure off the disc. Avoid the movement patterns, build the endurance, mobility, stability, strength, load tolerance. We can do it. It's a month-by-month program. Each month is $47. Every week you'll get 8 to 10 new videos. Progressing you up the ladder, getting you to the end. I developed this because my back pain didn't go away for 10 years because I did all the wrong things and I did them in the wrong order. Okay, I was complicated, but I got better. The most complicated can get better. There's a pathway. We've discovered the pathway. We know what the pathway is. It's called 10X. It's going to get your life back. It's going to help you live. TotalBackPainRelief.com, 10X order. That's the website. Order it. Live it. Get better. Have a better life. That's the program. 5 steps. The fundamentals. These are the scientific truths of back pain. This is articulated in the scientific literature. National Institute of Health says this is the best way out. No other way works as well because you have to create the durability. There is no other way. This is the steps to get better, to get your life back, to live your life. This is it. There's no other way. 10X order. TotalBackPainRelief.com, 10X order. That's it.